Hello, my name is Nathan Standing. Thank you for joining me today. I will be going over intellectual disabilities with you today. Uh, as we begin this lesson, I want to talk about what an intellectual disability is. And I found this video produced by Special Olympics that gives a good definition of what an intellectual disability is. So keep in mind and be trying to find the definition as we watch this video.
This module provides a brief summary of what an intellectual disability is. An intellectual disability is a disability characterized by significant limitations in both intellectual functioning and in adaptive behavior, which covers many.
Okay, that wasn't hard to find at all. But as we saw, an intellectual disability is characterized by limitations in intellectual functioning and adaptive behavior. So in both intellectual functioning and adaptive behavior. So we'll describe what intellectual functioning is and adaptive behavior a little later on in this slideshow. But I wanted to show you another definition here and intellectual disability is a term used when a person has certain limitations in mental functioning and in skills such as communicating, taking care of him or herself, and social skills. So that's just one more definition, but I want to talk about those two different parts that were in the last definition of intellectual functioning, so limitations in intellectual functioning and adaptive behavior. And that stated here, that when you are determining if someone has an intellectual disability, you look at both their ability, their intellectual functioning, like we said before, which is another way to say that is IQ, and you also look at their adaptive behavior and their adaptive skills. So first off, we'll explain what intellectual functioning is, and that is your ability to process and understand and problem solve and learn and those kind of skills that are very needed. And there's an IQ test that tests that. The average score is 100. But students with intellectual disabilities score below 70 to 75 on that test. And so that's one way that that people can be determined if they have intellectual disability is by their IQ score. Also, another factor, as was stated before, was limitations in adaptive behavior. People with intellectual disabilities often have problems with daily living skills, such as getting dressed, going to the restroom, feeding yourself. They also have problems with communication, such as understanding what is being said or not really being able to answer a question because they don't understand the question. So they have problems in communication. They may also often have problems with social skills with peers, family members, adults, and others, and so those are adaptive behaviors that they don't have necessarily, or sorry, adaptive behaviors that they are limited in, and that they can receive extra help in. So at a young age, you can often determine you can determine when someone has an intellectual disability. Certain signs of an intellectual disability is that they learn later how to walk, crawl, and sit up. They also learn to talk later, or if they do know how to talk, they have trouble speaking. They often people with intellectual disabilities may find it hard to remember things. They might not understand how to pay for things, such as and count money and that kind of thing. They often have trouble understanding social rules, have trouble seeing the consequences of their actions, have trouble solving problems, and or have trouble thinking logically. And while these are things that all children learn, those with intellectual disabilities often are performing at a lower level than their peers and those that are at their same age level. So people that help determine if someone has intellectual disabilities will often compare a child to the performance of their peers as a whole and see if they are lagging behind in these things. And so if you do determine that your child, for example, has an intellectual disability, you may be wondering what services are available to them and how they will be helped and how you can best help your child. And part of that is understanding what services are available. So it's important to realize that you can receive help very early on with a child when a child has intellectual disabilities, and very early on they can be um, helped by early intervention programs, which are programs that will help provide resources and ways for the child to not that is the child that is developing slowly, to be able to provide them with ways to keep advancing at an early age, and these early intervention programs can be very helpful for the child and help them develop. And these are available until the age of 3. After the age of 3, they may enter special education through the public schools or other services or other schools, and they can access special education and related services from the age of 3 to 21, and this provides them with the opportunity to continue developing. There are many resources while they are students in special education that will help them. There is the use of IEPs, which focus in on the specific learning, the specific child, and what goals can be set for them, and considering all of their disabilities and their circumstances of what they can, how they can best progress. And IEPs are very helpful to students with intellectual disabilities. There's also a focus on helping students with intellectual disabilities participate in general education. They can be mainstreamed into classes of students that don't have disabilities or don't have intellectual disabilities, and regular ed classes, as they are referred to by some. And also there's a focus on incorporating Common Core or just regular core into their lesson plans, so they can have as much of a general education as they can. There's also added aids and services that allow these students to perform. And there's also a great emphasis on adaptive skills, skills that they will need when they live independently, and these can be done by the teacher helping them or by occupational therapists helping them, and many resources to help them with their adaptive skills. So these are the services that are available to students with intellectual disabilities, and there may be others that I didn't talk about here too, but those are some of the main ones. And as future teachers, myself being one of them, who may not teach special ed specifically, but will teach another topic, we'll have students with intellectual disabilities in our classrooms. And it's important for us to know what we can do to best help those with intellectual disabilities. One of the main things that we can do as teachers is to learn as much as you can about the student's intellectual disability, and understand what that means and how that might affect them in your classroom. And it's important to recognize that you can make an enormous difference in the student's life. Don't give up on that. Have faith in the idea that you can impact them positively. Even if you're still learning how to do that, you can learn how to help this child, a student. And part of learning about this student and how to help them is asking for a copy of their IEP, where this will help you understand their disability, and also importantly help you understand the goals that they have set or that have been set for them, or to help them, and so you may know what specifically they are working on. It's also important to be as concrete as possible, with that they can learn what to do. They might be better to show them what to do than just to tell them what to do, as they can learn well from observing. Also, break longer tasks into smaller steps It's important to give these students immediate feedback and teach the students life skills, and these adaptive skills we talked about, and also work as with a team of teachers and parents and others to help and implement their IEPs. And lastly, I wanted to end talking about Rose's Law, which was a law that it applies to this conversation. It was passed in 2010 by President Obama, as we can see in the picture. And the focus of this was changing using the word mental retardation or the vocabulary mental retardation to intellectual disability. And that's just that is the correct way to refer to that is intellectual disability. And we can help make this change, because there are still people that may have not made this change of using the right incorrect terminology, but as teachers we can help make the change of using the right terminology by always referring to it correctly as intellectual disability. And there's a quote from the senator that Mikulski, who helped pass this law, that said, "Rose's Law will make a greatly needed change that should have been made well before today, and it will encourage us to treat people the way they would like to be treated." Well, anyway, thank you for attending this lecture with me and learning more about intellectual disabilities. And thank you very much.